Welcome to Forest Alchemy, where love, land, and community converge in a dance of wild creativity.
We're Mike and Allie, forest dwellers and soul partners, sharing stories and projects from our permaculture community homestead. Come gather by the fire, and let's explore the magic of connection, creation, and the living land. Hello.
This is Mike and Allie of Soul Fire Forest.
Welcome to our first ever podcast.
Yeah, so we're just going to talk about what we're doing and talk about why we're doing it and kind of see where our brains flow from there. Planning's not our thing. We just kind of do the things when it comes up.
Yep, as we say, we're very squirrely people, so
today we've been working on, we got some ducklings, and they're...
Not today. We didn't get ducklings today.
We didn't get the ducklings today, but we had them in a small brooder, and they were outgrowing it because there's 17 of them. So they need a little bit more space and more water capacity. So we were making more space for them in the shed that they currently live in. And that the shed was previously a chicken coop. Hasn't been used in a few years, but it still had all the chicken bedding and chicken poo in there, and which led to our second project of the day, which is building a compost pile. So people have asked me, what do you do with all the duck shit or chicken shit if you got chickens? And I'm like, well, that's one of the best parts of having them, is because they help us build compost.
Yeah, we love poop.
Yeah. One of the things we're doing here, we're not just growing food, we're growing soil. And to grow soil, we need to put nutrients and minerals in the soil.
Lots of poop.
And the animal poo and their bedding helps us do that.
And going to our friends that have goats and getting their poop. Yeah,
so here, I think more comes onto our property than stuff leaves our property for a landfill. So we import carbon here. We bring in wood chips. We have tree services drop off wood chips. We help people muck out their barns and bring in their poo so that we can build the soil. So,
we keep all of our boxes from deliveries and use them in the garden.
Yeah, any plain brown boxes. The ones that are kind of shiny sketch me out, so we don't do that.
Yeah, so we spent a good chunk of today building the compost.
Yeah, and it looks beautiful. I'm going to stick a thermometer in it, and I bet that sucker will get up to 155 degrees in a couple days. And I put a bunch of biochar in it. We were saving it. We've been screening the biochar. We got a surplus of kind of raw. It's still bigger chunks, and he's broken down. But rather than breaking it down at the moment, we're just kind of screening it to get out the finer bits. Had a few 5-gallon buckets saved up that we were gonna do in a compost tea to add in the garden. Since we're doing a compost pile, we can't build a compost pile and not add biochar to it, because that is one of the best ways to inoculate it with the microbes and nutrients.
Well, we had to pause for a moment because we looked over to find our 1-year-old in the duck enclosure trying to drink from the duck pond.
Yummy water.
Yeah, typical day in the life of feral children.
He's like, what? I hear you guys talking about all the nutrients going on the compost pile. I'm just getting them straight from the source.
Yeah, so funny. So earlier you were talking about when you think about the garden and all the different jobs in the garden, that even though it's one of the maybe yuckiest and most labor-intensive jobs in the garden, it's one of your favorites, is building the compost pile.
Yeah, it's really satisfying to me, taking these waste streams that would otherwise, in most people's homes, go to landfill. And I'm taking them and I'm combining them all together in a pile and then waiting for a while, and then I get to add to the soil. So we're growing soil, and then I am building the nutrients that are going to go into the food that are going to go back into us.
And this comes back to so many problems in our society that this is fixing, one of which is waste, the amount of food waste that there is that just goes straight to the landfill. When first of all, it should be going to people that are hungry.
Yeah.
But second of all, once it is rotten, it's going to the landfill and being covered in a way that releases methane, right?
Yeah.
And it could be like another one of the big problems in the world is that our soil is depleted.
Yeah,
and our food doesn't even have the nutrients we need.
They say we have like so many, I don't even remember the number, like, but so many years of topsoil left because the conventional monoculture is just like growing, rotating soy and corn mostly to feed the animals, and all they add to the soil is NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And they're just like, if you've ever walked in one of these fields that have been growing corn for a long time, it's like just this. It's not even like soil anymore. It's just this like dense, sticky, like it's gross. It's not soil. Like what they're doing to it is they're just taking and just adding as little as they can back to continue growing the thing that they want to take, but it's taking all the other minerals.
Right. Well, it's the leavers versus the takers. If any of you have ever read the book, what's it called?
Ishmael.
By
Daniel Quinn.
Yeah.
It's a great read.
It's a great read. And they talk about there's two different cultures, the leavers and the takers. So like the indigenous people were the leavers, and they always left a place better than they found it. And then there's the cultures of the takers that just take and take and take. And I like see that in everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the permaculture was it principles, earth care, people care, and fair share. So like only take what you need and like share the rest.
And leave a legacy of goodness. Like we're not just creating something for ourselves for selfish, reasons only. Like even if I hope we never leave this spot, but even if we ever did, we at least know that we built this beautiful soil and like helped even this one little square of the earth. It feels good.
That's the thing I forgot to look at yesterday. So yesterday we were, after we dropped all our kids off, we went to Grand Rapids. We had to go pick up some glasses and get a couple things from Costco. And then we went to like get some food from a restaurant that I hadn't been to in probably over a decade now. And we drove past the house that I lived in from like 2005 to 2016. And in the front yard, I used to have, I was not somebody who fit well in the city, because half of my front yard I took a rototiller to and I tilled up the grass, and the first year I did that, I planted corn. I had a cornfield in my front yard. I loved it. It was beautiful. It was a conversation starter for sure. Like anybody that walked past, like, why did you plant corn in your front yard? And I was like, well, because there's a lot of trees shading the backyard. It's the best. It's got the most sun. It grows the best, and it's like beautiful. It looks way better than grass. Grass is stupid.
Oh. Yeah, that just reminds me of that place that we went to pick up a stove, and we drove up, and the first thing I said was, "Oh my God, look at this beautiful garden!" And it was just filled with flowers and
the whole front yard was planted. I think just different plants, flowers,
not
and
a
mint.
Single blade of grass. It was gorgeous, and we were talking to the guy that we were getting the stove from, and he was like, "Yeah, they're selling the place. So if you want any of these little shrubs or trees, like go ahead and take them, because they're digging all of it up and putting grass."
So frustrating. Oh, so I forgot the point of my story, driving past our old house.
See, I told you we're squirrels.
We're squirrels.
You gotta follow the squirrel trail.
We make it back eventually. So that section where I had tilled, like I added compost too. When I planted corn, I like buried they forced us to mow the lawn in the city, and usually I just mulch it. But occasionally, if I was building compost, and I don't have enough other materials, like I would bag grass just so I could compost it. When I planted corn, it needs more nitrogen, so I buried strips of basically like hay from the grass that I did, so it'd have more nitrogen underneath. And I added a lot of biochar to that soil. So I also maybe the corn wasn't the first thing there. I think I made Brian a little garden there, and he had planted a few things. And sunflowers were one of the things he planted.
Brian is Mike's son.
Yeah. He
one of the whole flock.
One of a whole flock. So he planted these. We planted these big mammoth ones, the ones that are yellow, and then these multi-headed red sunflowers, and they crossed, and then the next year a bunch popped up, They were multi-headed yellow sunflowers, and we left some of them there, and there was abundance of them. So some of them we moved down to the strip of grass between the sidewalk and the road. And where I had like added stuff to the soil and added biochar to the soil, like those sunflowers got nice and big, but the ones down on the strip by the road, they got maybe like chest high, where the other ones were taller than me. So I wanted to look when we went back yesterday. Like, unfortunately, like, this yard has just gone back to grass. I was curious to see how that side compared to the other side. Like, I'm curious if it's still how it's still looking. I'm sure that by now, like, the grass has like robbed all the nutrients in the soil, but there's still the biochar in it, which has like long-term benefits to being in the soil.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a whole nother episode probably all about biochar, which will, I'm sure, happen. But the biochar that was found in South America from, they're thinking civilizations over 10,000 years ago, right?
Yeah.
That, they're finding evidence of biochar in the soil because they're trying to figure out how a civilization this large could have been fed in the jungle, where the soil is not very nutrient dense usually. But they found evidence of biochar and like smashed pottery.
Yeah, and they dug way down and like worked way down in the soil, and they call it terra preta. And you think in the rainforest, you're like, oh, that seems like it would be abundance in minerals, but because it rained all the time, all the nutrients were actually washed away. So when they put the biochar in the soil, it actually helped hold onto the nutrients, so that the plants could, like, the plant roots can like grow into the biochar and like get the nutrients out.
And so for those who don't know what biochar is, we can give like just a really basic, but I mean, it's charcoal, right? Like, but it's not charcoal.
So it starts with charcoal. So typically charcoal made from a waste product. Like here we use like basically anything that's too dense to compost or too dense to compost quickly,
like
we'll turn into biochar.
Pits.
Yeah, like avocado pits and like grape stems and like seeds that we're not going to use for anything else.
Mango pits.
And mango pits.
Or wooden toys that we're tired of stepping on.
Yeah, anything wooden or like a hard organic material. And then outside, so at our old house, we had this barn that had fallen down, and we salvaged some good wood from that. But then there's like a lot that was too rotted. So rather than than send it to the landfill, we just drug a couple biochar barrels out there and we just made big batches of biochar. And then when we were boiling maple syrup, we'd bring it up for that. We go back and bring back the wood and like use it to provide the heat for boiling maple syrup, and then have the biochar. The biochar as, like, some would say it was a byproduct, but to me it was a primary source of the maple syrup as a byproduct, which I miss. I miss doing that.
And to make it, you're burning.
Yeah,
we're burning it.
We're burning it with either an absence of oxygen or very limited oxygen, so in an anoxic environment, because if there's oxygen, it'll just burn all the way down to ash. So we build a fire in a way that the fire stays on top, and the charcoal, the oxygen can't get down to it because the fire's consuming it, and the rest it's enclosed.
And you have to continuously feed it so that basically, like, the way I understand it is like you don't want the white on top. Like when you burn something and you see the white, that's the ash.
Yeah. So getting a little off topic, you were asking what biochar was, and kind of got into talking about how to make it. But anyway, we make charcoal. We do it. I started making these, taking 55-gallon drums and turning them into they're kind of like a flame kiln cap is the name of this one. So we basically add material until it's filled up with charcoal, and then you extinguish it with water. At that point, you just have wet charcoal. So then the next step is to grind it up smaller. So it's best if it's like the size of like coffee, like ground coffee. And then you just have ground charcoal, but it's still empty. Like there's still nothing in it. It's just pure carbon. And if you add that to the soil, it'll kind of act like activated charcoal, where it will absorb the things around it. So if you add just raw charcoal to where you're going to grow something, it's actually going to do worse for the first year or two. But then it will eventually like equalize out and start benefiting your soil. But it's best to like inoculate it first. So then you take that and you inoculate it with microbes and nutrients.
So that's what makes it biochar?
Yeah.
Oh, I never put that together.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it needs microbes and nutrients. So the ways we do that here, the best way for me is we have a worm bin in the house where some like small amounts of our compost go. It's mostly banana peels, so I imagine this compost is very high in potassium.
Yeah, we have a lot of kids and go through a ridiculous amount of banana peels.
Yeah, and my smoothie every day has banana, so I've always been abundant in banana peels, and now we've got so many, some of them are going to the compost. We need to scale up the worm bin so we can handle it, because it's the best compost. It's said to be 8 times as microbial active as just the compost in your compost pile. So when I add food scraps to that, I also add in biochar, so that's just sitting in there, and it's usually at least a year before I harvest it. I think at this point, I don't think I've harvested this worm bin since we've been together.
No.
So it's probably been since like 2021 or 2022 since I've last harvested anything from the worm bin. So it's going to be this, unfortunately, just this dense, like not light and fluffy, but just this dense stuff. But it still works good. It's just a little, it's not optimal. But anyway, the biochar has been sitting in that. The worms have been eating it. Like, it's been passing through the worms. So it's so loaded with nutrients in the worms and the microbes as well. Oh. So if I take the worm castings like that and put it on like my house plants, like the house plants whatever I put them on just explodes. So then the second way that we inoculate, and how we inoculate like a greater amount, is in our compost pile. So as we build a compost pile, we'll like put down layers of whatever we have, whether it's animal bedding or food or grass or leaves, and in between like every layer we're putting on a layer of biochar. So with the pile that we're working on today, I think we add another 10 gallons of biochar to it today, on top of it probably already has another 10 gallons in it, plus whatever was in I also added into the buckets as we're accumulating the foods. I'll add biochar in there. So this pile probably has 30 gallons of biochar in it, which is a good amount. So that'll be so like I don't have the biochar by itself, it's just biochar mixed in with the compost. So like when we're putting the compost in things, it just comes to the biochar. And then the other ways I've done it is make a compost tea, or make a compost tea in a big garbage can with a bubbler and let that bubble for 24 hours. And then I'll put the compost, I'll put the ground charcoal in a kiddie pool, and then we'll pour the compost tea into that, and for a few days we'll like turn it, maybe a little bit more. And that's another way to get nutrients in it. I want to do testing on that because I'm curious if that's as effective as an effective way of inoculating the biochar as when we add it to the piles. But we're going to try, for the garden here, we've got our tomato bed. Tony and Liberty have been working on like pulling the sassafras roots up and getting that ready, and plan on planting in a couple days. So before we all get out there and plant the tomatoes, I really want to add a good amount of biochar to this. I'm going to try inoculating a new way, where in the compost tea bubbler, I'm going to add in as much charcoal, a ground charcoal, as I can, while still keeping it like that like rapid bubbling from the air pump that I hooked to it, and just inoculate it directly in the aerating compost tea. I have a feeling that's going to like kind of charge it up even more than just dumping the finished compost tea onto the charcoal. Yeah, it's gonna be good stuff. One of these days we'll have time where we can like take all these different methods and like do like plants in a pot and like test them out to actually see which one's the best way, which is the second best way. I know the worm castings are probably gonna win, but what's best after that? Because currently that's small. That's like the small scale for us. So we like often like use that in our soil starting mixes.
Yeah. Well, bringing up Liberty and Tony kind of reminded me maybe we should come back to who are we and what are we doing here?
Who are we? We are Soulfire Forest.
Aliens.
Aliens?
Yeah, we're Soulfire Forest, and we are starting an intentional community here with our friends Liberty.
So it started off as Allie and myself up in New Era at the house I'd been working on for almost 10 years. and we thought we were going to be there for a good chunk of time. I'd put a lot of work into the soil there, and like building up the garden and making the house really energy efficient. But kind of got burned on the friend owned it and was supposed to be selling it to us, and kind of really screwed us over. But fortunately, Liberty had a house that she wasn't living in anymore, and it's like kind of on the small side for us, but she's like, hey, this is what I have, and like I'm willing to offer this to you guys so you have a place to go, and then we can finally like be in community together, because she's living next door. And it's just so much easier to like get together and work with people, especially when you're parents. Like, we're parents, she's a parent, and it's just hard to get away, like to go somewhere else to do the things. So now that we're all like right here on these same two conjoining properties, like we can do a lot more together.
Yeah, and becoming a parent is what really pushed me into community building. While Mike was working on this house before, I was down in Bangor starting a different community called Atlantis Awakening, and kind of learning about that through a lot of mistakes. Community is tricky, and you gotta learn some lessons the hard way, you know?
Yeah.
So we're still learning.
Yeah, and I was up in New Era, and like I was wanting community, but like I already knew the ordinances there from someone else that I'd met there. The ordinances there were not conducive to like building tiny homes on an existing property, even if that property is multiple acres. So we were kind of stuck and like not sure what we were gonna do. Like we were gonna try and fly under the radar. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, so community kind of came from both of us. I mean, we were doing it simultaneously, separately.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I was going to say that, so my version of community had been, like, I had 3 different times since 2020, I've had different friends that, like, just wanted to, like, either didn't have a place to go or didn't have a great option where they were, and I was like, hey, you're welcome to come stay out here and, you know, help do this, and kind of gave like anybody that wanted to do kind of like take charge of anything there, like, you have freedom to do that, because I don't have time to do all things by myself. Because then I think it was like 2017 or 18, I had this realization. I was like, I cannot do this by myself, because it was just me and my boys there. And
it's just too hard, you know?
Yeah, there's just too much to do.
Like with homesteading, it's I think we're still stuck, especially in homesteading, in this this nuclear family approach that, like, you go out and get land and try and get back to working with the earth, but then having kids as well, like just having kids alone
is a full-time
job if you're, you know, really taking time to connect with your kids as well. Just that alone, and then trying to add homesteading on top of it. Like, sure, you can bring your kids to do some of it with you, but I think even homesteading without kids would be hard or at least me. Like, I thrive in community, just with doing things with other people. I mean, that's what, you know, I started doing this because of parenting. Like, you know, like they say, it takes a village, and I became a parent and truly learned that lesson. It takes a village. And I was trying to do it with no village, and so that's what got me starting to build a village. And there were really beautiful benefits of community that I loved. Like, one of the big ones was not having to cook dinner every night, having community meals where we all, just a simple thing like cooking dinner.
Or even worse, having to decide dinner.
Yes. We didn't have to decide dinner.
Every day. What the hell?
Yeah, somebody else can decide dinner. We can take turns washing the dishes. In Atlantis Awakening, at the height of it, there was 6 adults and my 2 children in one house. So we were all sharing one kitchen and, like, one bathroom. And many people might look at that and be like, oh my God, that's chaos. And, like, sure, of course it was sometimes. But the beauty of community is that you're doing it with people that you enjoy being around. So
yeah, and people who you share values with, that one's
Yeah.
important.
yeah, and it was really beautiful we had some really beautiful moments in community, and you had some beautiful moments
Yeah.
with having people come and live with you. So
Yeah, it was mostly good having people stay in there. And for me, I think I started realizing that I needed community when it was 2016 when I started like really meeting people who like shared values with me and were like similar to like to my beliefs, and like I found the others, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what life should be, not sharing it with someone who I like I share kids with, but I don't share values with. I want to share it with people that I share values with. And then I took the boys to kind of like a fledgling intentional community that had events on several weekends of the year, and it was a bunch of families that just came together and lived as a community for a long weekend. And I watched my kids thrive for really the first time ever. They went from like battling with each other all day every day to like cooperating and playing with other kids and just like running free. And this was 2016, so Kaylin and they would have been 6 and 7 or 6 and 8, I think. It was right after Kaylin's birthday, so 6 and not 6, 4 and 6. It was even younger. So I got to watch them thrive, and I was like, this is what my kids need as much as I do.
Right, yeah. And when we had other kids in community, same thing, like being able to not only for the kids to have like other kids to hang out with, but for them to also have other adults to be with.
Yeah.
Because, like, first of all, kids just don't like to listen to their parents as much.
No.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. But they still seem to hear us.
Yeah.
Because other people tell us, like when the boys go off with Liberty or go off with River, they'll be like, they were such well behaved, and they will like say that they did the things that they've heard me say, even though they don't necessarily always do them for me. So I'm like, that's great. So even if they're not doing that here, they're still hearing it, and they're practicing it with other people.
Right. Yeah, I think we need that. And I mean, ultimately, like, why we started community, why we're doing this, and like why we're doing this podcast is like, this is our lifestyle, is our activism.
Yeah.
Because I believe, and I'm sure you do too, that what we are doing, and it's not our idea, there's millions of people all over the world doing this, but what we are doing, living in this way, and we're not quite where we want to be, but we're trying and we're getting there, but doing our best to like live with the earth, and not be tied into the system as much as possible. Like, I think that that's the only hope that we have for the future of this planet. Like, it's easy. Before community building, I was getting really stuck in fear and doom and gloom of learning about the world.
Oh, yeah, same.
Kind of when my rose-tinted glasses of education were taken off, where you're fed all this propaganda of America's so great and everything's fine and everything's wonderful and
infinite growth is a thing.
Yeah, and trickle-down economics. Once I started to become an adult and realized that there was a lot going on that can feel really scary, I felt nervous because I'm like, well, what do I do about it? I'm just one person. It's like, what do you do? And I think this is the answer, is like living like this. Like, if everyone just removes themselves from the system as much as possible, then the big corporations won't have any reason to continue dumping the chemicals and continue destroying the planet. But in order to do that, I think that we all have to work together.
Yeah.
I think that having a bunch of individual homesteads trying to be self-sustainable, I don't think that's the answer, to be honest.
And most people have more in common than they have differences. The media
Yeah.
likes to make people
Yeah.
focus on their differences, because if you're focusing on the differences of your neighbors, you're not paying attention to the real villains.
And I'm not saying you can't like have a homestead to yourself, but you can like trade and barter with your neighbors, or like we have to work together somehow and have some sort of community.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're trying to community with other people on the same and adjoining properties, but other versions of community can be you just have a network of your friends and neighbors that are like in your greater area that you can trade and do things with.
Speaking of neighbors, we have a neighbor walking up with a kid's shoe. Hello there.
So
we
we're
pause
thinking
it?
about getting some birds.
Okay.
So we're working on recording a podcast right now, and we're actually talking about community. So it's serendipitous that you've happened to stumble upon us while we're in the middle of doing this. So we'd like to introduce like Keith next door at Heartbeat Farms.
Yep. Bringing us a kid's shoe in the middle of the driveway
With an apple.
with an apple.
With an
Half
apple.
an apple.
Oh, half of an apple. Wow. What a treat.
He likes to season his food a little bit first.
Oh, there you
So
go.
I looked at baby birds over at Farm and Home.
What kinds are you looking at?
A variety.
Variety.
About a dozen. Something good egg layer, but meat bird too.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, I have lots of lettuce and beautiful bok choy
Oh,
Ooh.
in surplus.
yeah, we love bok choy.
So come
Yeah,
get
we eat
some
a lot of bok
Okay.
choy.
sooner than later, because the lettuce is starting to bolt and might as well take whole heads, you know.
Okay.
Clear the space, make room for more things.
All right, thank you.
Great.
Okay. Oh, and I've got chamomile and lots of other things you might want to grow too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Oh, I dug up some mint the other day. It's a cultivar of lemon balm, but it's tangerine scented.
Oh, is that
wow.
the Baker Creek?
Yeah.
Oh, I got some of those seeds. I never started on those, so I'd be happy to take some of those.
Good luck with them. So if you want starts, I got lots.
Alrighty, thank you.
Yeah, we should do. We should do a tour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Show you all the things.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Because I'm sure I have items that you'd like to add to your collections.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Oh man, speaking of the benefits of community, when your neighbor comes over and is like, "Hey, I got lots of plants
Oh, it
that
starts.
you guys are looking for,"
Bok choy, lettuce, chamomile, tangerine mint,
tangerine lemon balm.
tangerine lemon balm.
Oh man, I bet that smells really good.
Well, yeah, lemon balm is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's my first herbal plant. The first thing I planted.
Yeah, that's a funny synchronicity of ours. It's the first herb you planted, and it's the first herb. It's the herb that brought me into herbal medicine,
Oh,
because it was a lemon balm infusion that I started. My first ever infusion was lemon balm for depression, for postpartum depression.
and how'd that work for you?
Really well.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I did that a lot.
It's good to see that our lemon balm. So I had planted lemon balm that I started from seed over at the old house, and we did dig up. We didn't dig up as much as I would like to have dug up, because the people that moved there, like, they don't care. They're gonna mow over most of what we did probably and just plant grass. So like we dug up as much as we could with the time that we had. And the lemon balm, it's weird. In Wyoming, Michigan, outside of Grand Rapids, where I started my lemon balm, every year my patch was bigger and bigger, and it was so lush and beautiful and smelled, so just run your hands through it, it smelled so good. And then I dug up a few pots worth of that, and I moved some to Rockford, where we stayed for a while we were working on the house in New Era before it was like livable. And then I dug up some and brought it to New Era. The stuff that I planted in Rockford, I planted some in Rockford, and it spread for it went across the house. Like we planted on the back side of the house, and also the next year also popped up on the front side of the house. But the lemon balm that I planted in New Era, it just it never took off. Like it started growing, and then it just kind of fizzled out, and it came back for a few years, and eventually it just gave up. So I started some from seed a few years ago, and put that in the medicinal garden, because things did better in the medicinal garden, because I had chickens and ducks free ranging, and the first winter I had them, the winter of 2020, 2021, they kind of hung out in the driveway around the medicinal garden, and then in the medicinal garden, because that's where we fed and watered them during the day. So, and then we'd shovel where they were in the driveway into that. And the next year, like everything that we planted there just exploded. Like it was beautiful, just because for having them help build soil. So like we dug up that lemon balm and brought it here and planted it next to the house, and so far it's looking really good. So I'm hopeful that we're gonna have good lemon balm here.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll circle back to community and why we're doing this. This, like we were saying, this is our activism. This is our this is what we believe is the revolution.
Yeah.
And part of that is showing okay, so we had to pause again because we had kids calling. Is it?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay. All right. So why we're doing this podcast, coming back again. We believe that this way of life is a possibility. I mean, it's like how humans lived for the majority of humanness.
Yeah. It's only recently that we've got the nuclear families, everybody living their own things, and it only benefits capitalism because everybody needs their own toaster, everybody needs their own lawnmower, everybody needs their own everything.
Yeah. Well, and we're so stuck, and I have been stuck, and sometimes still feel stuck in this belief that it's okay for life to be like this, for us to wake up and go to work and come home and sit on our phone and watch TV and eat crap food because you don't have time to cook real food and you don't have the money to cook real food because you're too busy working. And it's how the empire keeps us held down, right? And then we feed ourselves this belief that this other way of living off the land, is too hard for us. It's too hard. We can't do it. We don't know how to do it. We'd have to learn all this stuff to be able to do it, and it's just too hard. So we are here to show you that, yeah, it is hard. So is living, that other life that I was just describing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hardest, though it's hardest when you're first starting, because you're having to build up all the things. And then we get to a point where it like kind of takes care of itself. Like our herb garden, for the most part, we had to just go harvest herbs because it was all filled in, it was built up. We occasionally we had to pull some grass.
Yeah. But also it's harder when you're doing it alone, like we were saying, and so our belief is that the way that we change the world, the way that we create, and this is another issue, is that so the kids these days have such horrible depression and anxiety because they live in this world in which all of the top scientists and politicians are telling them that it's hopeless and we're all going to die.
Yeah.
And it's too late and we can't do anything.
And it's not just kids. There are like groups dedicated to this, the near-term human extinction groups where people are like, oh, yep, scientists say we have this many years and then we're done. And like I started off there. Like I had this awakening in 2012, like that the climate crisis that we're in and the collapse is a thing that was going to happen because this empire is just, it's gone insane and it's not going to survive. And like I was like, oh, what are we going to like? We need to start stockpiling stuff. But one of the things I didn't want to do is I didn't want to stockpile guns. Like I don't want to be one of those people.
Yeah.
So like when you build community, you're not alone. You're not afraid because you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And like we can, like with permaculture, like we're not going to rely on the huge farms out there growing crops of one thing. Like we've got so much diversity here. Like, and if something doesn't grow well, like other things will. Yeah. And we'll just keep adding to that so that we will always have something here.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we're building this for our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids, and not just the physical place, but the knowledge. I think getting stuck in this doom and gloom, we're all gonna die bullshit is just fear-mongering that is pushed on us to hold us down.
Yeah.
I feel like it's intentional. You know, when we have no hope for the future, then we're not going to fight for the now, right?
Yeah.
We're just going to continue like, oh, well, we're all going to die anyway, so might as well sit here on my phone on my butt.
Yeah, because there are things that could be done on a larger scale.
Yeah.
But it's not profitable to the corporations that are profiting on like creating this.
Right. And if we all just continue to tuck our head in the sand and continue going about our day to day and not doing anything, like, yeah, that is how it will go. And if we all just continue to buy into society and the corporations, and like, we're guilty in ways too, like we have to drive our car a lot, and we do what we can. But if we all just continue, then the corporations will still have people to be doing this for. But if we all like come together, and it doesn't have to be like every single human, but if most of us slowly remove ourselves from the system, then there won't be any cogs for their machine.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I mean, it's like when you look at revolutions in the past, one of the most effective strategies, like in the civil rights movement, was boycotting. And so we do our best to boycott the system and remove ourselves from it. But a big part of that is helping other people to remove themselves. And for me, a big part of that was education and learning from other people that had been doing this for a long time. And for me, that was podcasts.
Yeah.
Like a big part of my beginning of my homesteading was, canning food by myself, listening to podcasts, learning about how to do the thing. So that's what we're doing.
Podcasts and books and eventually YouTube videos and just trying things, like just doing things.
Yeah.
Like you learn so much when you just decide that you're going to do a thing. You're going to build this thing you've never built before. You're going to learn how to do it. You're going to learn all the steps. And then you've got new skills.
Yeah, you're the builder, for sure. Yeah. So that's what we're here for. We're building community. And we want to show what that looks like and the nitty gritty of it, not just the glossiness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's hard. Like, there are hard things about building community. There's hard things about homesteading, and it's all worth it. At the end of the day, I feel so good about our future. And like, if there was a collapse that so many people are preparing for, we would have a place. We would be okay because we know how to grow food.
Yeah.
We know how to take care of our kids.
We know how to preserve food.
Yeah, we know how to preserve food. We know how to build things.
Yeah.
We feel confident in our abilities. Like, that's a big thing too. It's just like having confidence that like, I don't know how to do it, but let's go figure it out.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing, but let's try.
So many of our projects.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, and one of the other reasons we're here is because we want to teach. Like, we've got so much knowledge here, so much collective knowledge between Allie and myself, and then Liberty and Tony, and then hopefully we can pull in Peter and Keith, and we teach. So we've been going out and teaching. I've been teaching personally about making biochar and composting and green wizardry and making kombucha since 2016. I sign up to do workshops at different events, oftentimes music festivals, and have people come in and teach them. Now we want to start bringing people here to us and like teach people here where they get to see and they get to be hands-on. So I'm not just talking about what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. People can actually like try it out and like do it themselves because they're more likely to remember.
Yep. And that's the goal. Yep. So.
And there'll be more of us.
Yeah, we're building, and we're not trying to build like a huge community here. We just want like a couple of families, but we want to, like, I've always imagined like this network of communities, and it's cool when I hear other people talking about this too, that they've had like the exact same dream, that they're not just starting a community. They're trying to build this whole network, and it's always reminded me of like the mycelium under the earth.
We are the mycelium.
We are the mycelium, and we are the network that is transporting nutrients and resources from one community to the next.
Yeah, and we're connecting people.
Yes, we are people connectors for sure. We want to not only build this community, but help other communities start around by, like, even just if we can inspire one person to do something different.
It's always been amazing to me when somebody comes to one of my biochar workshops and I talk to them like a year or two later and they tell me how they've actually been doing it.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever taught about biochar was I went to the community I was talking about that I took the boys to. It was One Love Oasis down in Bloomingdale in 2016. And like my first workshop was like that night, like around the fire, there's like a fire going, everybody's just kind of sitting around. And I just sat there and like showed a little mini demonstration and talked about biochar. And then when I came back there the next year, there was a teenage boy who was sitting around the fire that night who, after listening to me, had started making biochar whenever he came there.
Aw, wow.
And like so many times I get to hear people like actually using this knowledge, and it feels really good to know that like people are actually using this.
Yep. I think there was a big shift in people I think it started before COVID, but I think COVID really exploded it, where a lot of people woke up, as they say, you know. We all kind of like saw through the curtain a little bit more of how messed up things have been for a long time, and how much we are needing to go back to the way things, and we don't need to go back and make it exactly like it was. Like, we're making a whole new thing. Like, we can, and I always think about like Atlantis, you know, like we're bringing in technology and using technology, and we're doing this in a new way. We're parenting in a new way. I guess our parenting is kind of actually really old school.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, old and new. I bet there's aspects of it that we think that like we now think, knowing psychology and brain development, I imagine there are things that like we do a little bit better than even like the old like.
Well, I mean, that's what
tribal.
We do as humans. We evolve and we add new things, and but we're going back in many ways and going forward at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so these podcasts are just going to be talking about all the things we're currently doing, all the things we want to do, and just sharing our knowledge.
Yeah. And the mistakes that we're making.
Yeah, the mistakes we're making. We make plenty of those.
We make a lot of mistakes. Yep. And that's how we learn the best, is through mistakes. So we can share our mistakes with you, and we can all sit around and laugh about it.
Yeah, and then maybe you can avoid those mistakes.
Yeah.
Unless you're a teenager and can explain to you how I made the mistakes. You still have to try it out on your own, but that's how we learn.
All right, so any teenage listeners, go ahead and listen to our mistakes and then continue to try them, and then you'll think back.
Yep.
Well, I think that's... Anything else you'd like to share before we go?
No, not at the moment. I think we got a good start there.
Yeah, I hope you guys can hear all these birds. We've been surrounded by orioles, and this little fellow who's got he's got like a white chest, but like a red little band around him and black wings. I think that's him up there, and he makes a really fun song. It's like...
Is it another oriole?
Don't orioles have the orange all the way down them? Not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much. I don't know if some birds, male and female, have different colorings.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk to you next time. Our baby's gone feral. He went off that way. We should probably go find him.
Here somewhere.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye. This one?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us in the forest. If you felt a spark, share this episode and leave a review. It helps grow the mycelial network.
Follow our journey on Facebook and TikTok at Soulfire Forest. And until next time, stay rooted and radiant.